Christmas Day will mark the 80th anniversary of the opening of the North Platte Cantina. North Platte, Nebraska, has about 20,000 citizens today, and they had about 20,000 citizens in 1941. And the Union Pacific Railroad runs through the town. It's the reason the town exists. It was laid out by the Union Pacific. And much as El Paso has been the stopping point for the Southern Pacific, the Union Pacific has stopped for a half an hour or more to take on water and sometimes fuel and drop off mail and do various things. That's been their main stopping point. And so after Pearl Harbor occurred on December 7th, um, it occurred to a number of people in North Platte that a great many men and women would be moving by train through their town, and that they wanted to do something for them. They recognized that they were, for the most part, incredibly scared and lonely and going off to face who knows what in the future. So they decided that they would provide them with food and drink and all sorts of other things for every soldier who passed through the town. And so beginning at 5:30 on the morning of December 25th, 1941, the canteen served people, everyone who stopped. In the morning, it might be coffee and a breakfast roll, and later it might be a sandwich and a Coke, and so on, all through the day. And it was extremely well received. There are numerous diaries that have recorded how important this was to soldiers who were alone and facing this frightening future, and these mostly women coming through the cars and giving them a sandwich and encouraging them and trying to support them in whatever way they could was extremely important to them. So the first train arrived every day at 5:30. The last one was supposed to arrive about midnight, though it was not uncommon that it was running 2 or 3 hours late. And there were generally about 25 troop trains every day that ran during the war. And North Platte, Nebraska fed them all. And as time passed, originally the troops were not allowed to get off the train for security reasons, but as time passed, they were. And various people stepped in and provided newspapers and magazines. And very soon after the opening of the canteen, it became clear that it was going to be very expensive and complicated to do this. But by that time, the actions of the canteen were known by people up and down the railroad line and farther into the country. And so it was not uncommon, particularly in the area between North Platte and the Front Range of the Colorados. It was not uncommon that people would show up at the train station and say, I have these 3 dozen eggs, and could you please take them to North Platte and give them to the canteen? Or that a Coke dealer would arrive and say, I have this truck full of Coke that I would like to donate to the canteen. And so over time, about 55,000 people, almost all women, volunteered to cook and serve for these troop trains. They lived as far away as 200 miles from North Platte. As the war went on and rationing became more and more severe, people cooperated in every way they could. People gave their extra ration stamps in order to get more food. People carpooled. They provided extra gasoline stamps to women who lived farther away so that they might come and work. And starting just a few months after the canteen opened, it became a tradition to provide a birthday cake to every service person who passed through town if that was their birthday. So they generally baked about 20 birthday cakes a day for these soldiers. And a great many people gave up their sugar rationing in order that that was possible. So it was very common in that area that people gave up their own birthday cakes so that soldiers could have one on their birthday. And this is really one of the most extraordinary acts of volunteerism in American history. The canteen ran from Christmas Day in 1941 till April 1 of 1946. They served more than 6 million troops as they passed through with a whole variety of food and beverages. And as I said, about 55,000 people volunteered to make that happen. And a great many other people played roles in providing magazines and books and food and everything else that could possibly be used during this time. There was at least one marriage that resulted from this 30-minute interaction. And in the last few years, it seems like I receive regularly some kind of statement along the lines of, "This is not my president. This is not my country," et cetera, et cetera. And I just want to say that is my country, and that is my America, and the canteen is my dream of how the United States and all other countries should work, that people voluntarily work together to create terrific outcomes. And all of these people are, of course, passing into history. If they were 20 at the time of the war, they're now 100. So a great many of them are gone, if not all. But I think this really harkens back to just an extraordinary time in America, and it's difficult for us. I asked one of my friends who lived to be 105 how 9/11 was in relationship to Pearl Harbor, and she said, well, it was really very much the same thing, except of course we had all of these pictures of 9/11, and we had very few pictures of Pearl Harbor, and they came in the newspaper and they weren't of particular high quality. So these service people really went off to a world that they didn't know about, that they'd never seen, even in movies. They'd never really seen these areas. And they went off on this incredible challenge, and the people in North Platte did their part to make that easier and to keep their morale up and support their souls as they went forward into this process. So I hope that we will all remember the North Platte canteen, and I hope you will mention it or say a little prayer about it when you begin your wonderfully abundant Christmas dinner. So thank you so much.